Hi, my name is Priscilla Macintosh, and I work as a creative producer in the art industry in the Netherlands. I also work as a project manager and with a background of art education as well. So I mix that into my creative producing work. But my art education is included in everything that I do, actually. Also, for example, for the Slate week and for the Slate sessions, I always keep in mind the goal that I want my audience or my group, target group, whatever, to achieve. And I always look for, besides creative ways and other ways, I always look for educational elements to implement to achieve that goal with that specific target group. So Slate World was a project I worked on for the past 2 years. I'm still working on it, actually, because we are in the final phase. It's a project that was initiated in England by Eclipse Theatre. And the time I came on the project, there was a collaboration with Amsterdam, ICK, and De Meervaart, which are both performance art organizations in Amsterdam, and the collaboration with Portugal. Um, I really loved Slate. Slate has done a lot, I think, for here, and maybe not even in big terms, but in a lot of little initiatives, we reached a lot of people. Um, what I loved about Slate is the part that a lot of projects, just the same as I was mentioning earlier, that when people are talking about diversity or inclusion, they would often talk about the artist or things like that, and would forget all the things behind the curtains. So what I really loved about Slate is that it focused as well on the enabler, which is often the creative producer, as on the artist, and that there's this collaboration between them to figure out what's necessary for that country. So that was the thing I really loved about Slate. The first thing I found important was to talk to people. I decided to do some field research, just some simple field research, by talking to a lot of artists, producers, just regular people in the creative and art industry, and try to figure out what they need and what they find necessary for their own career development. And that gave me a lot of extra information that helped me with the ideas I already had. Meanwhile, I started sketching for the whole program, and we did a week program in which we found it important to connect people, so that people could get to know each other, interact a little bit with each other. Found it important to learn them something, and as well to empower them in a way, to make them feel that they are not alone and that they can do it, and that they can continue with what they are doing. So I found those three elements very important. Meanwhile, also the artist Perry Gits, with who I'm working on this for Slate Amsterdam, came on the project. So we fine-tuned everything together and we continue to work. Um, my There were a few highlights during this week, and one of the things that I really loved about the way that we produced this whole week is to see how people really connected and to see how people really felt empowered. People were really just happy to share Instagram info and phone numbers and things like that, and you could just see it happening while you were in the room, or people were just so happy and connecting with the lecturers or the host for specific programs, and you could just see the energy and feel the energy. So that's what I really loved about it, and what was perfect about Slate. But what Slate made me realize even more is, in the beginning, I was focused on this. how to say, on this, on the perspective on more career building. So it was more about, okay, how can we help people from A to B in their career? And while talking with people and also visiting England first, and then after our project Portugal as well, I noticed that it's about so much more, and that it's especially about those little moments, which are often also hard to or difficult to implement in projects, because most projects need to see like big results or something. But the special thing about Slate for me was having those little moments with people of color, with my peers, um, and those safe spaces to talk about certain topics, and to just air and vent and discuss. And because I think you can go to career building things or whatever, um, at different organizations. There might be different places to learn that, but the special thing about Slate was having those connections and having the opportunity to really talk to people about certain things, um, and really open up a little bit. Also, funny thing is, I'm not a public crier, but I cried a lot during those Slate gatherings. So that's also, I'm laughing about it, but it also showed that in a way there was some kind of hurt that you can never air in different situations and in different places. And it's also often, of course, different when you're talking to friends who maybe are not in the art industry, who are of color, but they don't understand the industry. Or you are talking to or to artists, but then they maybe are not of color or whatever. So you don't always have this perfect connection in which you can discuss everything. So that was one of the most special moments about our Slate events. And also interesting is to see that we are not done with Slate here in the Netherlands. And we are at the moment looking at possibilities to kind of continue the things that we did in the past 2 years, to find ways to keep on connecting people, to keep on empowering people, and to keep on learning people different skills that they would learn in school or whatever, or other places. What should we think more of in terms of diversity? I think a lot of things. I'm looking from the Dutch perspective. I think that we have been talking about inclusion and diversity for a while already, but what I noticed is that we would, for example, talk about it, for example, from the perspective of the people on the stages. So you would have these artists on the stages who would be from different cultural backgrounds, but it would lack people of color in the more in the trying to find the words, in the more leading decisions, in the more leading positions. So, for example, the creative producers, the directors, the heads of the companies are not that inclusive, because people are just focusing on what's happening on stage. And I do notice that there's this shift. The shift is coming. But I think that that should be our focus for the time being, to work on that. And that's something what I love about Slate as well, is that we also discuss this part of the gatekeepers, that we really need those gatekeepers as well.